right. What's up, Dex?
What's going on, Rob? Good morning. I was thinking, well, who's gonna go first? Right?
I
Good
guess
morning.
the answer is already decided here. So we're just talking about you, just off camera now. You're having a little bit of a back problem, so we'll we'll go easy on you.
Well, that's what happens, right? When you become a man of a certain age, right? You're like you
The
instead of
word you're looking
talking
for is old.
instead of talking about your glory days, right? I'd rather you're talking about your back aches and your shoulder pains and neck pains and everything else. But as I also said before, it's I'm glad that I'm talking to you about them, right? That we're. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't want to say that we're dead. I'm just saying we're just getting older, right? So the
Well,
realization
yeah,
is
yeah,
hitting
yeah. Well, I think we're now suffering from years of enjoyment. That's what
without a
happens.
doubt. Yeah, we
You
were. I
know,
mean, I was reckless with my body when I was
mm,
in
yeah, me too,
high
man.
school and college and in my 30s, well into my 40s, and
Yeah,
yeah, I'm paying for all that now, man. I gotta tell you.
you too, huh?
Yes.
All right. Well, hopefully you feel better.
Thank you. In due
Yeah,
time, we will. Yeah, no,
I'm
we'll
sure.
we'll, we'll set aside an episode just for our aches and pains.
Yeah, we'll set aside like about 5 or 6 hours to discuss those things.
So
But
speaking
let's
of
just
that,
go
what did
ahead.
you want to talk about today? What's on
Well,
your
you know what?
mind?
There's a couple of things that we can discuss here, and I think the hot subject, certainly in the Northeast in New York City, there's two particular hot subjects, and the first one I'd like to tackle is the Daniel Penny acquittal, if you will. Daniel Penny, for those of you who may not be following it, I think his name is Daniel Penny, was a gentleman who basically killed somebody on a subway train in New York City. I've heard a lot of different accounts of what happened, but in the end, he wrapped up somebody. I don't know whether the guy was homeless or not, or mentally stable or not, but he wrapped him up, dropped him. He had a chokehold on him long enough that he killed him. I don't know whether it was intentional or not, but intent, I guess doesn't really matter to the guy who's dead right now. So, but so that's been all over the airwaves in New York City for the last really couple of weeks. But I think it was last week. I think he was finally acquitted.
He was finally acquitted last week. It was a very strange case. Daniel Penny, Jordan Neely, who was the young man um, who's no longer with us, right? And but the jury didn't say it was murder. They acquitted on a lesser charge.
Mhm.
And there were a lot of, it was one of those cases in New York City where if you grow up here, if you spend enough time here, if you're exposed to the city in and of itself, it's one of those things that the longer the longer you stay here, the less naive you become, right?
Mhm.
And there's a lot of things that are happening all over this city, and because there's a lot of things happening, and it's a city of I don't even know anymore, 8 million people now. It could be less. Um, there's always something that you have to keep your head on a swivel about. This young man, Jordan Neely, was a music performer. He has a record of beef with the police. I believe he was homeless to some degree. Um, and then the opposite side of that, right? You have this, and who's African American, right? He's black. Let's not forget
Yeah.
that, right? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you have, and then you have, on the other side of that, right? You have a white Marine who put him in a chokehold, and eventually, he died because of that. So,
Mhm.
like, and the jury, I thought, I got to be honest with you, I thought that he was going to do some time, some level of responsibility for it, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And nothing. Like he just got off of choking somebody out. And my problem with that is that you took a life that I think that if you were I see. I don't want to start doubting like whether he's a good Marine or not a good Marine. I'm sure he was a good Marine, and I'm sure his intent was never to kill him. But I guess he jumped into this kind of like action. Let me take care of what's going on, because that's what really the Marines are about, right? You don't
Yep.
let down a fellow Marine, and that's the whole armed forces. And then you start. You're in that moment. You're holding on to him for dear life because, according to testimony, he was yelling, he was making threatening gestures.
Hmm.
There were women and men that testified that he, um, you know, that they were afraid, basically.
Sure.
And
Yep.
when you deal with something like that, like what do you do? Um, and then the flip side to that is, I mean, did we give people in New York City an opportunity to like really engage in like this vigilante justice? But then at the same time, you're like saying, well, if this kid had been convicted, what would happen to me if I step in? Right?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this pendulum swings definitely both ways
Yeah.
because, like, again, he did get away with killing somebody. Now, whether it was justified or not, it's not up to me to judge. The judgment has already been made
The
by
jury has spoken.
by
They
his
found him
peers,
innocent.
fellow
Yeah.
peers, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not going to question that. But there were however many people on that jury, 12, I guess it was, and they found him not
Innocent.
guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
he's
found him
not guilty.
not guilty.
So
Yeah.
that's that. And so yeah, like you said, it sort of opens up sort of like a bit of a Pandora's box in that if he had been found guilty, then yeah, then it sort of kills the, I don't mean to use that term loosely like that, but it demotivates people. The people become more afraid to taking action if they feel their lives or the lives of others are threatened if they take action. And like you said, I don't think this guy meant to kill the guy
No,
that
I
he
don't. I
killed.
don't think.
I
I
don't
don't.
think
It
that was the
wasn't
intent.
premeditated. No,
But
no, no,
nonetheless,
no.
he ended up dead no matter what. So, and again, and I'm not trying to say that he should burn in hell for it. Neither one of them. It it happened. The decision is rendered. It is what it is. And now we have to see what comes of it. Interestingly enough, I think I read where the New York DA, Briggs, I think is his last name. I'm not
Alvin
sure.
Bragg. Yeah.
Braggs, excuse me. I think he said that this is not over, that he was going to revisit this at some point, some way, somehow. And I don't doubt it. The way Bragg went after, Trump, I don't doubt that he is going to come back after this guy. I don't know what can be done, but he did say, I think I've heard that he said he was going to come back after him. And then,
I don't know. I mean, I got to be honest. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't.
yeah,
But
oh,
if
I'm not
I've
either.
seen enough law shows, right, to tell
Yeah,
you
yeah.
to tell you that I
And
don't
if
think you can be
Hollywood
charged
says
with the
he did
same.
it,
You can't be charged with the same crime twice.
yeah.
Is my
No, 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 no,
understanding.
no. I
Yeah.
think it's not going to be the same crime. It's
Mm.
going to be I'm sure it's going to be like a variance of that. For example, the Trump thing, and I don't want to bring up politics. The Trump thing, he was acquitted of that same charge years ago, and it was brought back and it was fine tuned with some kind of a federal, I suppose, variation to that, but it was basically the same crime with a federal slant to it, and they found him guilty of that. So I think Bragg probably will do the same thing with Daniel Penny. Like you said, I don't know. I don't know if he was saying that for FaceTime or whether he's serious or not. But not least of which also I'm hearing in the news that now BLM, and here they come. Now they're upset, and maybe they've got reason, and maybe they don't. I don't know. But so now they're calling for action. Now they're calling for protests, which is, by the way, our American right to protest, obviously. And so we'll see what comes of that. So now the BLM group, they're motivating, and we'll see where that takes the city and maybe other cities. But I think there's a lot of people that have the right to be upset on this one, on both sides, I suppose. Right? I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. I mean, they do. They have a. There's a lot. It's one of those really. It's certainly a complicated political case, right? Because as a politician, you got to be careful what side you stand on there.
Yep.
Um, and it's a very unique case. You've got a man, Jordan Neely, who was 30 years old. He again, as I mentioned before, he was a performer. If you didn't hear about this before, and he was a musical performer
Hmm.
within the city, mostly within the subway system, which a lot of performers do, because you're
Yes.
exposed to a lot of different people.
Sure. Sure.
So yeah, and again, he was homeless, and he was had his brush with the law, and then you have this other kid, Mr. Penny, who's presumably going to college, and taking architecture courses, and was a
Yeah.
former Marine. So his attorneys presented it as, him jumping into action and saving what
Hmm.
was around him, and, saving him from a
Sure.
lot of threats. But you're right, there's a lot going on. If you ride the city subways long enough,
Oh man.
you're
Yeah.
gonna get you get exposed to
Not
so
not
much
for nothing. Not
craziness.
not not for nothing.
Wow.
Uh, Cases of people getting choked to death in New York City is not uncommon.
It's not
And
uncommon.
that happens every day. It's just that this was a high exposure case. I think once the elements of racism, or of race, excuse me, and then the BLM group jumped in, then it became sensationalized. And now the paparazzi or the press or whatever, now they're sort of like jockeying for position because they want to be first to report. But this is not, somebody attacking somebody or killing somebody in New York City. That happens every day. Sadly
Sadly,
happens.
it
Yeah, it
happens
does. It
every
does.
day in
So,
New York City.
but again, this is unique, like you said, and now we'll see what comes of it. I don't. This is not over. It's not over.
Oh,
Not
man, it's
least of
not
which,
over. It's not over
yeah,
by any means, because
no, not by a long shot.
he's
Even
still.
even if let's just say there is no activism. Let's say there are no protests, which there will be. You can bet that there's going to be a movie. You can bet on that one, man. So that's going to, I
It's
think,
just Hollywood
open.
doing their thing,
Yeah,
right? They're
that's going to
gonna.
open up wounds again when the time comes. But we'll see, man. We'll see.
Well,
It
Daniel Penny doesn't. He has well over. And here's a couple of other things about that case, right? That are kind of like not off-putting, but surprising. Right? He has well over $3 million collected through like a crowdfunding page for his
Wow. I
attorney's
didn't
fees. Wow, a lot
did
of
not
money,
know that.
right? Yeah,
Right.
which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so that shows a lot of support, because and he also has a lot of strong political support, including the president. He sat with the president at the Army Navy game, with the president and the vice president. He sat with them. He was invited to sit with them. It's kind of like, President Trump giving his stamp of approval
Sure.
on that, because that's coming from a man who presumably has been accused of almost anything under the sun, right? So
Absolutely.
he's a little sensitive to that.
I would not have recommended that if I
No.
was his people. I would not have recommended. But he is his own man, Trump. He's going to do whatever he thinks
It
is
works for
right.
him. He's the president
And
of the
then
United
and not for
States.
nothing, he's got numbers. He's got the votes. Let's not get on that one. Let's stick to Penny
Let's stay away from
and
that one.
the gentleman. What's his name again? The gentleman who got killed,
Jordan Neely. Yeah,
Jordan Neely.
Jordan Neely.
Let's not forget his name, Jordan Neely.
Yeah, Jordan Neely. Yeah, let's not forget
So,
his name.
but
Yeah.
yeah, now time will tell what's going to come of that. But I don't think that this is not over yet. This is not over. Now
No,
comes
like I said, I don't know if I said this, but he faces a civil charge, right? Now he faces a civil case. He's his family, Jordan Neely's family, has brought a civil case to against Daniel Penny.
sure.
And what happened, from what my understanding of civil cases are, the burden of proof is not as high.
Right.
So, they may get some sort of settlement, And that settlement would be an admission of
About $3
guilt,
million,
right?
I'm betting.
Maybe,
Yeah,
or whatever Daniel Penny,
sure.
makes from this, or maybe the family may say, look, he's not going to
Yeah,
profit
we'll
from
see.
his death.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah, we'll
see.
see what happens.
It's a sad thing that it even happened. It's a sad thing that the whole situation even came to that. Never mind the outcome, but here we are, and I think we're only just one freaking event or just one moment from another sensational story in the New York City subway system. Because I mean, let's face it, man. This happens every day where there's people getting slashed in the face. And I don't mean to put down New York City, the fantastic city, but like any city, you've got issues. I don't care whether it's New York City. I don't care whether it's Hong Kong. You've got issues, right? But in New York City, you've got crime, and so again, I think we'll see what the next one is. But
It never made any sense to me in this city. And I understand all the excuses about government and budgets. And you have a city of nearly 8 million people. I can't get that number right. I have to look it up as to how many people are in New York, right? I mean, I'm talking about the city itself, not all of New York State.
right, no, yeah,
that, right?
right.
So I think, and we have a police force of what, 38,000, if that? I mean, there needs to be at least 100,000 in New York City. There
Sure.
isn't, and you have less than 40,000 police officers, right? And if it weren't for the citizenry, the majority of them that just want to, live productive lives and
Sure.
be in the community and not want to hurt one another, rob, cheat, steal, whatever, right? So it's kind of like there's so many things that need to be fixed here, but that stuff, and we haven't seen. New York City right now is locked in like the holiday fever, right?
Sure.
So the holiday season, so we haven't felt the reverberations of that yet.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Unfortunately, I think we will feel that at some point
in the new year. Sure. Yeah, after that ball drops in Times Square, pretty much I'm
everyone
thinking
will
this
come
is going
back to reality.
it's going to heat up again. So, well, I just stay hopeful and see what happens, man. Hopefully this will be a peaceful event, or not. It's not peaceful right now because of the death, but hopefully it won't get worse for the city, for anybody. So we'll see, man. We'll see.
Right.
So let's switch up to another hot topic that's in the Northeast. Actually, I think it's spreading all over the nation now, and I've heard maybe all over the world, but this phenomenon of drone sightings all over the place. I don't know if they're keeping up with that, man, but it's everywhere.
It's odd. If you pay attention to the news will tell you, yes, a lot of them are manned vehicles. We're mistaking them as drones. You hear a lot of different stories as to what's actually happening, that local government's aware, the FBI is involved, Homeland, the whole thing, and military. President Trump is saying, the military should be open about this stuff. Who knows what's going on? It's surprising to me that it's taking this long to have like a real answer as to what's happening there.
Yeah.
Like not a real answer, but a uniform answer, right?
Sure.
Right.
Sure,
like,
because
what's going on?
Yeah, because like you said, this is not new. You know what I mean? I think the fervor and the headlines is new, but this is not like, it's not like as if drones are a new thing. Heck, even I have a drone. I'm serious. Even I have a drone. Everybody that I know in my neighborhood has one. We fly them everywhere, left and right. This is not now we're talking about recreational. I've got a small one. It's not that big, right? So the drone I have is it doesn't matter the model, but it's not that big. Unlike the ones that are being reported that are the size of small cars or whatever the case may be, flying around. But the one thing I will say about that, from my perspective, is if you look at a lot of the video, number one, is grainy. So we're gonna we're gonna start delving into this whole UFO
Oh,
hysteria
sure.
stuff,
Sure,
man.
yeah.
And most of them that you're seeing lately reported, excuse me, are nighttime. Now, we'll say this, not just with my recreational flying, but in my military experience, very few people can afford a drone that has night vision capabilities. And that's what these guys at night have. Drones don't fly at night unless they've got some kind of a sensor, whether it's some kind of a heat sensor or night vision sensor, because otherwise you're just flying into power lines and trees, or the thing disappears into the night. If people don't have these sensors, they can't really judge where these drones are. So what I'm trying to say is I'm willing to bet that if this story is as real as it appears, most of these drones that are flying at night are equipped with sensors, specifically heat sensors, because they wouldn't be flying at night otherwise. Again, you couldn't gauge, you couldn't track where it is or where you're going if you don't have night seeing capabilities.
Mm.
And if I'm right, then you have to ask yourself, why are they flying at night? And if they do have heat sensors, what are they looking for? They're obviously looking for something that emits some kind of a radiation, whether it's a human being, people, a group of people, or something, right? Even an inert gas leak has a heat signature. So they could be looking for anything. They could be now on the extreme end, and I don't want to be, going off the whole conspiracy theory cliff.
I
Although
think you've got. I
although we're
think you've
headed
got
in that
conspiracy
direction
theory
quickly.
in you, man. I was about to say. I think you've
Yeah,
got
if these
conspiracy
things do
theory in you, my
have
friend.
radiation, capability, reading capability, then yeah, something that emits radiation can be something like a bomb. Sure. Again, I'm not saying that that's what the case is. I don't. I'm not. I don't. I doubt that that's what that is. I really do. But if I'm at the end of the day, if I sit down and I plot, and if everything that I'm seeing and if everything I'm thinking is accurate, and if these drones that are flying at night can't, unless they have some kind of thermal sensors, then that's what they're looking for, a thermal signature.
I'm just. I'm not even at that stage yet where I'm saying, well, what are they looking for?
Right.
I'm still at the stage where, like with everyone else, like why are they up there, and why are there so many,
Right.
and is it like public hysteria, right? That's taking place. Have they always been there, and they're just being noticed now?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
it's kind of like it reminds me of that old Twilight Zone episode, like the Rod Serling Twilight Zone episode, where they feel like aliens are taking over the world, but in the end, it was just like a power had gone out,
The
and
hysteria.
the hysteria
Yeah.
amongst the neighbors had kicked in, and they started blaming one another and stuff, and it was really nothing other than the power going out. But that's all it took,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's I think that people, and when you have government officials, right, that should be like, if they ask, like, what's going on up there, it's and you say, I don't know. It doesn't give the public a whole lot of
Right. Yeah. Those
confidence.
words
Yeah.
do not freaking encourage confidence.
No, they
I
don't.
don't know from the
I,
people that should.
I
Right. They're better off saying, well, we've got many leads and we're looking into that. And as soon as we've got 100% confidence in the reasoning, then we'll get back to you. That's really the same thing as saying, I don't know, if you think about it.
yeah,
But the
it's
words I
political
don't
spin.
know leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
It's like an athlete when they ask an athlete, well, what went wrong with that play? Well, I didn't see the opening that I wanted, and John, we
Yeah.
just missed him. It
Yeah.
just went off his fingertips. But what he really wants to say is that John didn't get there.
Yeah, exactly.
He dropped the
He was
ball because
slow to
he
go.
was slow. Yeah. They
Right,
just
and
have to
that's
be.
and we're getting a lot of that right now from our
We
leadership,
are.
whether it's
We
local
are.
or whether it's elected, national, federal, whatever. We just certainly in the Northeast, we're not getting any kind of clarification on what's happening up there. And I think at the end, honestly, if I had to put a bet on it, I think it's just I think it's just hysteria. Yeah, I just think it's now being noticed. It's just now being reported. But in my neighborhood, for example, we've got one drone that is just a constant. It's just I don't know who does it, but it flies through the neighborhood. It's probably either a realtor, videoing or
Oh yeah.
photographing
Yeah.
homes in the area, or a kid, but I don't think it's just a kid because the drone has a specific pattern and he's looking at homes and it goes home to home to home, and I can hear it when it's over my home. So look, I don't know who it is and what they're doing, but what I'm thinking is I don't think it's anything nefarious
I don't
because
think it's.
I
I don't think
think
it's
they would
coming
have.
off. Didn't there was a politic? Oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. He said it was coming off some Iranian drone ship.
I've heard Iranian, I've heard Chinese, I've heard
Hey,
everything,
hey,
and I'm like,
let's not stop the Chinese are listening to our conversations. Don't be some. You know what? None of that would even shock me anymore.
yeah, no, you're
You
no, you're
know?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have
nothing would
we have
surprise me
balloons getting
anymore.
shot down. Remember that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, nothing would surprise me anymore. Honestly, the only thing that surprises me is again that our elected officials don't know how to respond better than I don't know. That's the only thing that surprises me that they're still answering that way. But as far as happenings and drones spotted over Newark International Airport, that's common. It's just now it's being reported. But I will say this, and I'm sort of like touching on the subject of these drones and some of their capabilities. But some of them have some pretty interesting programming where with some of them are AI uh, programmed, and some of them are they're pre-programmed to perform certain set of actions even without a pilot. And there's that consideration also. One of the subjects that I want to discuss, and I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of time on this one, is the ability of artificial intelligence. And when you pair it with technology, some of the things that can come of it. Some of them are truly wonderful, and some of them are frightening. And I don't know whether you saw, I sent you a quick video, a short video. I don't know whether you saw that. And it's a dramatization. It's not an actual conference. It's a dramatization. Maybe it was just a movie of a speaker that he's got a crowd. And I'm going to overlay it on this
Are you
episode.
talking about like deep fake imagery and like voiceovers
No,
and
in this case, the presentation, which I'm going to overlay here, is of a gentleman. He's got the attention of a crowd, of an audience. It's almost like a conference or table. Anyway, he's talking about the abilities of artificial intelligence with drone technology,
mm,
and where it's basically weaponized. So he does an example of a drone, a small drone that's flying around him. Somebody's controlling it, and it lands in his hand. And then as he's talking to the crowd, he's basically expressing to them the wonders of weaponizing a drone. And then he takes this drone and he flew the air, and this thing takes off. And then at that particular time, there's a mannequin that appears about 20 feet away from the presenter. And this drone is programmed to find that mannequin, and it flies around and it impacts that thing right smack in the middle of the forehead, and it's got an explosive charge on it.
oh,
So the point he's trying to make is these things can be easily weaponized and for cheap also. And I've seen other videos of drones chasing people down, mainly in military settings and
Right.
in war zones, where they'll chase somebody down and you can see the detonation. And whoever it is that this one's chasing is obviously, laid out. But again, and I don't want to get too hysterical, because I think artificial intelligence connected with technology, whether it's drone technology, whether it's computerization, whether it's programming, that's a whole world into itself. And I think hopefully in a future episode, we can touch on that more, but it's a fascinating thing. I use artificial intelligence almost every day. And it's a sad statement, maybe. I don't know. But it's got its good uses too. It really does. And I don't know that you have familiarized yourself with artificial, or do you use it at
Um,
all?
on some degree, I do. Like when it comes to chat and when it comes to different software that I'm using, that's about the breadth of my knowledge. And that's baby barking in the background. If anyone's listening to her right now, she always does
Tell
that
her I said hi.
when Amazon stops by. She becomes an absolute savage, and she's like this big, you know.
That Amazon package.
Anybody who comes through the door, she does what she's supposed to do. She
Yep.
barks like she's this big, right, this big, but she's actually this big. So
It's like my
but
lady.
I don't. But the funny thing about drones is, I do know they're fun. I do know they're sophisticated. I do know you can launch them and kill somebody, from miles away. I
Sure.
do know that you can weaponize them. The military has done that for many, many years.
Yep.
And it's just, the one thing that doesn't exist, a national drone registry. Just set up a national to identify these drones. It's kind of like the same with mopeds in New York City, right? These mopeds, great that the delivery guy could get me my food 15 minutes faster.
Yep.
But at the same time, when you're flying around 40 miles an hour in the middle of the street, darting in and out of traffic,
Yeah.
and you have no way of knowing who that belongs to. If we
Sure.
can't even pass a moped registration, a bill in New York City, what makes you think that we're going to be able to pass a drone? It's just things get
A
so
national
complicated.
one.
A national one. It's just
Yeah.
it's such. I mean, if you want to identify them, set up a registry. When you purchase
It's
your
not
drone,
complicated.
yeah,
It's not complicated. We do it
yeah.
with guns. Whether people do it or not, I don't
Just
know,
use the
but
template. Use the
it can be done.
template.
Yeah, it can
Yes,
be done. And
yes.
I'm for it, because you do get people that get silly, whether it's intentional or not. And they'll start flying over an airport, for example.
Yeah.
And it may be out of innocent curiosity,
Or
or it may
stupidity.
be,
Or stupidity.
it may be more than that. But yeah, if each is registered and they've got their own, their own signature to them, then it can be traced and it can be tracked. And by the way, why not?
Why not? If you're advancing into drone technology anyway. I
Yeah,
mean, we're not at the point where Amazon envisioned years ago, but I thought that was brilliant that they did, where they were going to be dropping off packages. But then again, my instant paranoid nature will say, well, if they could drop a package, they could drop a bomb, right? So it's like you
sure,
got to be right.
absolutely.
So
And
you got to be
don't put it past people to
no,
do that.
no, no,
Yeah,
but it's
and
not.
not and not for nothing. And I don't want to be again a conspiracy theorist, but it's not as if our own government isn't capable of doing something like that and then lying about it.
Oh, no.
I mean, and I don't want to get into any trouble about this. I don't want to offend anybody
Who's
that's
listening?
overly. Yeah,
Who's
exactly.
listening? Who's
Your
listening?
dog is
Nobody
certainly.
yet. No, yet. They won't follow us. No, let me stop.
Oh God,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Siri is listening. Everybody's
Yeah.
listening.
Everybody's listening. So what do we got? I
But
guess we should end it there. What do we got
yeah, I
going
think
on for
so.
next week? You got any ideas as to what we should be talking about next week?
None, but we'll figure it out.
And you know what? It doesn't take long in this city to come up with something, right? I'm sure we'll figure
I
out
figure
something
by the
fabulous.
time the next session rolls around, we'll have plenty to talk
To talk
about.
about and
But
keep everyone
plenty.
entertained.
We'll probably be sorting through. Nah, this one's a day old. That's just
Terrible.
all right, man. Well, hey,
All right, my
listen, man.
friend.
All right, you take care of yourself, man. Get better, and
Thank you.
we'll talk soon. All right, take care,
All
bro.
right.
Later,
Have a
man.
good one.
Yeah,
Take
bye.
care.